Good Monday morning, everybody. Chris here with High Seas Cruising, and welcome to today's video. Today is Memorial Day, a day of honor, a day to remember those who have made the ultimate sacrifice in defense of their country. To my fellow brothers and sisters in the armed forces, while you may be gone, you will never be forgotten. Now we're going to jump over into the cruise news and talk about a rescue at sea by the Carnival Radiance off the Pacific coast, off the shore of Mexico. They rescued 25 people in a stranded boat, including 3 children. They were brought on board the Carnival Radiance. They get checked out by medical. They get food, they get water, and they are secured below decks while arrangements are made to hand them over to the Coast Guard. Now, while stories of rescues at seas are becoming a more common story than they have been in years past, it always seems to be a few people who just have absolutely negative things to say every time a cruise ship does a rescue at sea. But Carnival Cruise Line's brand ambassador, John Heald, look, he gets these comments all of the time, so we put out a few reminders anytime a ship does a rescue at sea. 1, they do not get a free cruise. They do not get to walk around in guest areas or in crew areas. They are confined to a very specific location. They are under the watch of security the entire time they are on board the ship. They are given food, water, medical assistance, and then turned over to the appropriate authorities. So no, cruise lines should not be ashamed that they let these people on board their cruise ships. And people that continue to write in those types of comments, I really think it is you that should be ashamed. Remember, not only is it the human right thing to do, it is the law. Next, we have an individual, a man who jumped from Royal Caribbean's Icon of the Seas about 40 miles off the coast of Cuba. We don't know why he jumped, what motivated him to jump from the side of the ship. However, he ended up being, I guess, lucky is the only word I can really use for it, because after about 2 hours, they were able to locate him, bring him back on board the ship, and he is still alive. So they were able to rescue him. He is currently on board the ship in intensive care. And it's pretty miraculous considering only about 25% of people who go overboard the side of ships are actually recovered and actually have a chance to still be alive. And again, we don't know what motivated him to go over the side of the ship, but luckily he has been found, he has been rescued, he is in intensive care, but at least he is still alive. And finally, Norwegian Cruise Lines, well, they're back in the news with another itinerary change, an itinerary change for a ship that's actually sailing here in just a few days, June 6th, sailing, to be specific, on board the Norwegian Getaway. And just like all of the other Norwegian itinerary changes we've seen lately, and yes, Norwegian has been making more itinerary changes. And yes, Norwegian's itinerary changes, well, they're above normal even for other cruise lines. And of course, itinerary changes can happen. But when it comes to Norwegian, they seem to be making them more often. And of course, they have this form letter email that they send out that always starts out with, due to recent guest feedback. Fuel optimization. That's another one that you'll always get in a Norwegian email letting you know about your itinerary changes. But I like to focus on due to recent guest feedback. And I've yet to hear any examples of guests who have written into cruise lines, written into Norwegian, and said, hey, Norwegian, I want to book this particular cruise, but after I book it, I really want you to change it. I want you to switch days around. I want you to cancel port stops altogether. Just don't even go there. Because remember, according to Norwegian, this is due to recent guest feedback. And I really don't know where they get that from. So the original cruise itinerary was a 10-night sailing, leaving from Southampton, heading to Barcelona. It had 1 stop in Paris, 2 stops in Portugal, a visit to Gibraltar, 4 stops in Spain, and 1 sea day. That was the original itinerary. Now it is 1 stop in Paris, 1 stop in Portugal, no visit to Gibraltar at all, 5 stops in Spain, and 2 days at sea. Now, for all of those port stops, of course, you have shifts in days that they're visited, you have shifts in times that they're visited, and originally it was 8 ports of call with 82 hours in port, and now it is 7 ports of call in only 65 hours in port. So less ports visited, less time in ports, an email that comes out that starts off with, due to recent guest feedback. So again, which guest provided feedback that say we would like to skip ports and we would like to spend less times in port. Now, guests on board will receive $100 of non-refundable onboard cruise credit up to $200 per stateroom. And any shore excursions booked through Norwegian Cruise Lines, well, they'll either be adjusted or refunded. But those that booked independent tours and less than 2 weeks prior to sail date, well, you're on your own. You're going to have to make your own arrangements to either move them, cancel them, get refunded, change them around, whatever you need to do. Now, Norwegian Cruise Lines, they can make these itinerary changes. It does clearly state in the cruise contract, the cruise line does have the right to make adjustments that are needed for your upcoming cruise. So they are allowed to do it. They are allowed to do it with only 2 weeks notice prior to the sailing. And there could be different reasons for why they make these changes. But again, Norwegian Cruise Lines, they are making more frequent changes than any of the other cruise lines. And I think if you're going to make itinerary changes, you should, at least from the cruise line, be 100% upfront and honest as to why you are making them. Don't send out an email that starts off with, due to recent guest feedback, and honestly expect us to believe the guest wrote into you and said, we are spending too much time in the ports we want to visit. You are visiting too many ports. Please cancel some of these ports. Because while Norwegian does have the right to do it, I kind of feel that maybe they're being a little bit dishonest in the way that they are doing it. All right, and that is going to be our video for today. If you've enjoyed today's video, do me a favor and hit that like button. If you haven't done so yet, do me a favor and hit subscribe. It is free to do so. Helps our channel grow. Let you know anytime we put out a new video. Hope everyone out there is having a really great day. And like always, we will see you out on the high seas.